My name is Michael Turner, born and raised in Helena, Montana, and after spending almost 17 long years driving late-night routes through some of the loneliest, most isolated mountains in the United States, I used to laugh when older drivers warned me about the highway spirits and lost wanderers that supposedly roamed the snowy roads during winter storms. Until the night that finally erased every ounce of disbelief from my mind forever. A night so terrifying that even now, more than a year later, I still wake up drenched in sweat, hearing phantom footsteps on the roof of my house. It was December 19th, a night when the air felt unnaturally heavy. The mountains swallowed the moonlight, and the forecast predicted the worst snowstorm of the season. I was assigned the 1 a.m. route from Billings to Great Falls, a route barely traveled after midnight, especially in winter. By 1:12 a.m., only 5 passengers had scattered inside the dimly lit bus. Richard Hale, an exhausted corporate worker with dark circles under his eyes. Emily Clark, a nervous college freshman who kept glancing out the window as if someone was following her. Mrs. Peterson, a frail woman in her 70s who hummed softly to herself. A tall, silent man named Alex Monroe, who kept his head down and his hands tightly clasped together as though holding on to something invisible. And a young couple, Daniel and Rachel, who whispered to each other with anxious, restless energy. Everything seemed normal until we entered the Silent Mile, a 7-mile stretch of Route 87 notorious among long-distance drivers for killing radio signals, shutting down cell service, and causing strange static to fill CB radios. The moment our wheels touched that stretch, the vibe inside the bus changed completely. The warm interior temperature dropped as if someone had opened all the windows. The lights flickered faintly, casting long shadows that moved in unnatural rhythms, and the engine sounded like it was forcing its way through something thicker than the storm itself. Snow battered the windshield violently, but in short flashes between gusts, I could swear I saw a silhouette standing far inside the tree lean motionless, as if watching the bus pass. At 1:27 a.m., through the blizzard, a lone figure appeared on the right side of the road. A woman, drenched, freezing, wearing a torn gray coat that fluttered unnaturally against the wind. She stood completely still, her head slightly tilted, her long dark hair stuck wet against her face. She slowly raised her right arm, signaling the bus to stop. Her movement was wrong, too slow, too stiff, too lifeless. The passengers reacted immediately. "Don't stop," Emily whispered, gripping her seat. Richard leaned forward, eyes wide. "What the hell is a woman doing out here in this storm?" he muttered. But something in my chest tightened painfully, a strange pressure that made my hand turn the wheel toward the shoulder against my will. The doors creaked open, releasing a wave of icy wind so cold that frost instantly formed on the metal floor. The woman stepped inside without speaking. Her boots left thick wet prints on the floor, but the water wasn't clear. It was dark, almost black, as though mixed with dirt or something worse. She walked down the aisle slowly, each step echoing as if the bus was hollow. Her head never lifted. Her face remained entirely hidden beneath the wet strands of hair. She took the last seat, folded her hands in her lap in a rigid, doll-like manner, and did not move again. The moment she sat, the bus temperature plunged so sharply that every passenger exhaled visible fog. Mrs. Peterson hugged herself and murmured, "Something followed her. I can feel it." I tried adjusting the heater, tapping the dashboard, even flipping the auxiliary switches, but nothing worked. Instead, the lights dimmed further, flickering like dying candles. That was when the sound began. At first, it was a faint tapping, like long fingernails on glass, coming from the back of the bus. Tap, 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 then a soft dragging noise, slow and deliberate, as if something was crawling under the seats. Richard turned around and whispered, "Ma'am, are you okay back there?" The woman did not answer, but the tapping stopped instantly. Silence filled the bus so heavily it felt like a physical weight pressing on everyone's chest. Then, out of absolute nowhere, a loud snap echoed to the cabin, like bones breaking sharply. Emily screamed. The lights flickered violently, strobing the bus in chaotic flashes. In one of those flashes, I saw something that froze my blood. The woman's legs were twisted unnaturally, her knees bent backward like an animal. Alex stood halfway up and said with trembling voice, Don't look at her. Don't stare. She changes when she knows she's being watched. Before anyone could ask what he meant, the bus shook violently as if something enormous had landed on the roof. A deep, heavy thud, then slow footsteps that creaked above our heads. Step, step, step. The roof dented inward with each step, dust falling from the ceiling panels. The passengers huddled together. Rachel cried into Daniel's chest. I tried accelerating, but the wheels spun uselessly. The storm outside turned savage, pushing the bus sideways as if invisible hands were shoving it. Suddenly, the woman stood up, but she didn't stand normally. Her body rose in a slow, jerky motion, like a puppet being pulled by invisible strings. Her head turned toward the aisle, but her hair remained covering her face completely. She took one step forward, then another. Her feet made no sound. Emily sobbed, "Please don't come closer." The woman took another step, and as she did, the bus lights exploded in a shower of sparks. Darkness swallowed everything. Then we heard it. Something crawling. Not on the floor, not on the walls, but across the ceiling. Fast and frantic, circling above us like a predator. A single cold whisper echoed through the bus. "You stop for me." The lights returned for one horrifying second, and we saw her. The woman was hanging upside down from the ceiling, her limbs elongated, her joints bent in impossible angles, her jaw unhinged far wider than a human jaw could ever open. Her eyes glowed a sickly yellow, locked onto each of us at the same time, as if she had more than one gaze. Mrs. Peterson vanished. One moment she was seated, clutching her purse. The next moment her seat was empty, her blanket still warm. Daniel shouted, "Where did she go?" The woman's head snapped toward him at an inhuman speed. The bus shook again, this time violently. The engine died completely. Every sound outside the bus went silent, as though the entire world had paused. Then the woman climbed down the aisle, not walking, crawling on all fours like a demonic spider, her head hanging upside down from her shoulders. Daniel tried to run. He didn't get 2 steps before something yanked him backward into darkness beneath the seats. He screamed once. Only once. Silence followed. Rachel reached for him and was pulled under too. Their muffled cries echoed for several seconds, then stopped. Alex whispered shakily, "My brother saw her 15 years ago. She appears during storms, always alone, always signaling for rides. She's not alive. She died on this road decades ago, but she never left." No one had time to question him. The woman suddenly appeared at the front of the bus, her face inches from mine. Her eyes bored into me. I could feel her cold breath seep into my lungs like freezing smoke. She whispered, layered with multiple voices, male, female, childlike, "You brought them to me?" The windshield cracked from the cold. The doors burst open on their own with a violent hiss. Outside, through the storm, dozens of pale silhouettes stood in the snow, watching silently, men, women, and children with hollow eyes and twisted bodies, all motionless, all staring directly at the bus. The woman leaned closer, placing her frozen fingers around my throat. Everything faded to black. I woke up at dawn, lying in the snow. Rescue teams surrounded me. The bus was empty, completely empty. No Richard, no Emily, no Alex, no Daniel, no Rachel, no Mrs. Peterson. Not a single footprint, not a single belonging left behind. Inside the bus, carved deep into the steering wheel, were the words, "She walks with the storm." And every winter since then, drivers on Route 87 report seeing a lone woman in a shredded gray coat raise her hand in the blizzard, waiting for another bus to stop, and those who stop are never found again.